YouTube, I want to get your opinion on something. Over the years, I've read a lot about chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia. Obviously, I have a lot of symptoms of both, that being chronic fatigue and some pain. But I've ruled out fibromyalgia. And chronic fatigue syndrome to me seems like another trash can diagnosis that I'm familiar with, where doctors can't figure out what's wrong with you, so they throw out a term or a word, a diagnosis based off of symptoms. And I have a lot to say about that stuff because I dealt with what doctors called prostatitis for over a year, and then found out it was just based off of anxiety. Obviously, everybody is different, but there's a lot of symptoms across the spectrum that overlap, and some of the stuff that doctors see, conventional doctors, they don't really have the time, they're not really studied in all this stuff. It really, all the breaking news and the breaking when it comes to healthcare is from the functional realm, the functional medicine realm. They're the ones that always push the envelope to try to uncover root cause. And slowly functional medicine will trickle into conventional allopathic medicine, but it's going to take a long time because it's going to take a paradigm shift, and with the amount of people that are sick, doctors just don't have time. I mean, they don't have time, so they treat symptoms. I mean, depression, for example, is a horrible thing. Horrible. I've been laying in a ball crying for days, and been dealing with depression since childhood, but ultimately depression, like anxiety, is a symptom. Like bladder pain is a symptom. Like when you have a headache, it's a symptom. You take a Tylenol and the symptom might go away, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's curing the tension in your neck, right? So so yeah, medication can be powerful at alleviating anxiety, but what I'm realizing is it's not always this neurotransmitter sort of imbalance, because you have so many people getting better from so many different things who don't take medication. There are people that I've talked to who had debilitating panic attacks, just as bad as I had it, and then they never took Xanax, they never took GABA, they never worked on GABA receptors, they never did paleo diet or cut out gluten, and they got better by using the mind, tools in the mind. So it's very interesting, and modern science, and they always want to fit everything into a nice little ball of explanations, but that's not how it is. So depression and anxiety oftentimes can be symptoms of an underlying issue, and it takes functional medicine to really find out that root cause. And unfortunately, functional medicine, it's very hard to find a good practitioner that bridges the gap between conventional and functional. But if you really want to get to the root cause, that's what you're going to need, and potentially therapy. Some people have never experienced trauma in their lives, right? They led a good life, they don't have any stressors, and they're suffering from anxiety and depression. That could be a host of issues, a host of things, deficiencies and so forth. So, or you could have like someone like me who has addressed all the deficiencies and all the testing and the functional, and still dealing with this, but from my viewpoint, at least, chronic fatigue, if you look at it, depression can cause chronic fatigue, especially in my case. Anxiety can cause fatigue, because these are all so strenuous on the mind. It's so hard to turn off the stress response. I mean, how do you, it's very paradoxical, right? Like when the doctors told me from California that I needed to, in order to get rid of my pain, I had to stop thinking about my pain, but your brain is constantly signaling because of your pain. So it's a very, very difficult thing. It's called paradoxical relaxation. And the same thing applies to anxiety. And I have cured or effectively reduced anxiety symptoms by up to half, reading books and practicing that whole art, but never really below that. And then I'll go through phases and then it'll spike back up. You know, just one thing can kind of set it off and then it'll spike back up. But so it's definitely when you start to get into that zone where you start to ask yourself, why do I feel this way? Oh my God, I feel dizzy, I feel lightheaded, and you start focusing on your symptoms. You're becoming your symptoms, you're becoming hyper aware of it, and that's where I'm at right now. And as a result, you start to burn yourself out, you get tired, and then you create more symptoms, and then you worry about those symptoms, and then you just rinse and repeat. You just keep cycling back and forth between these symptoms. So the whole idea is to try to stop worrying about the symptoms. Acceptance is key. Acceptance is key for overcoming any illness. And I'm having a really hard time accepting that I may have adrenal fatigue, which I consider which is from extreme stress for years, and that ultimately can lead to chronic fatigue syndrome diagnosis, because doctors don't really look at the adrenals in the level that functional medicine does. But when I look at the statistics, and I've talked to many doctors and people that have gone through it through online, a lot of people have overcome adrenal fatigue after their doctor said there was nothing wrong with their adrenals. So I'm working towards that right now, and finally trying to work on the root cause. I'm doing a lot of testing this week, and we'll see how it goes. I'll keep you guys updated, and subscribe, and I hope to talk to you soon. Okay.